everybody. How y'all doing? How you doing? Welcome to Jail Talk Interviews. As I interview people that have a YouTube channel or a business. I was supposed to go live at 10:15, but my guest had to take us to business. But I'm glad he took some time off for his busy schedule to come on my actual YouTube channel. He is actually from the Missoula Police Department in Montana. It's the first time I ever meet someone in Montana. It's like amazing. But Captain Burt, welcome to my channel.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So please tell the people that do not know about you about the journey that you're on right now and how in the world you got in this position right now.
In the situation that I'm in right now?
I mean, but how you went from just tell me the story about you, how you went from how you started and how you get to the where you at right now, being the captain of the police department and everything. Now.
Well, to start off with, I've been retired just about 3 years now. Next month it'll be 3 years. I retired in February of 2022. I did 17 years with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. I started out as just a probationary deputy, and within about 3 years, I think I was promoted to corporal, or what they call an SD2. And I think at the 5-year mark, I got promoted to sergeant. With that job came the ancillary of duty of being a coroner. I did that for about 7 years before I was promoted to captain. And I spent the last 7 years of my career at the sheriff's office as a captain, where I served both patrol captain and admin captain.
What made you become what made you join the department when you joined? What made you join the
I knew from the time I was real young what I wanted to do. Probably 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to be in law enforcement. In high school, I started riding around with the local police department in Butte, and I did that just about every weekend. And right out of high school, I moved to Coeur d'Alene, in where they have North Idaho College has a law enforcement specific curriculum in their college. So I went to college over at North Idaho College in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and even before I graduated, I had a job offer up in the northern part of Idaho, up in Boundary County. And so I just worked my way back to Montana from Idaho and was glad to be able to do what I love in the state that I wanted to be in.
If you weren't doing police, it wasn't being doing police department, law enforcement, what was the other occupation where you would be doing if you weren't an officer?
What other places would I want to be an officer?
I said, what other opportunities, like if you weren't being an officer, what other jobs you want to be doing if you want?
I don't know. I knew from a very young age what I wanted to do, and I didn't really ever think about doing anything else. I suppose when I was in high school, I took some accounting classes, and I was always good at math, and I liked numbers, so I had kind of a secondary plan to maybe do something related to accounting or math, something in the field of math. But I was pretty sure I was gonna have a career in law enforcement.
Were you nervous when you start becoming an officer? Were you nervous when you first joined the?
I was probably just stupidly young. When I started in college, I was 18 years old, and I graduated young. I graduated high school when I was 17, and then my first 2 years in college, I was 18 and 19. So I was in some places, some places you have to be 18 to be in law enforcement. Some places you have to be 21. So I was still too young to be a cop in some jurisdictions, but I got my first job when I was 21 years old in Boundary County, Idaho.
Wow. And that's when you went from the where you went so that's when that's what made you become the police officer when you came out of high school and started getting working at the police department.
Yep, exactly. Part of the curriculum going through North Idaho College is they have it's kind of like an internship that you can choose either do it with the sheriff's office over there, which is Kootenai County, or the city police department. I chose the police department, and I had only just gotten started when I got hired full time in Boundary County. So I only served as a intern for maybe 6 or 7 weeks.
Do you ever do when you first joined? Do you ever did ride along with the veterans and you wrote notes? I mean, like you take notes with the veteran officers and know how to arrest people and all that stuff.
Yeah, so college gave me the basics. They teach you it's the how to, and then when I started with the police department, I was working with a field training officer, and they show you the practical application of things. You get to learn the basics from the books and practicing, and the other alternative is the academy. So you're either going to the basic academy, which is kind of what going to college was like. And then when you get out with a field training officer, they teach you the practical application of those things.
Do you love? I'll say you retired. Do you love being an officer when you was active duty officer at the time for 17 years? You love doing it?
I don't think I would have ever been happy doing anything else. I really enjoyed my career, but it changed a lot over time. So it's changed a lot in the last 10 years. If things like George Floyd happened and prosecutors became less friendly to law enforcement, judges became less friendly to law enforcement, and it was looked at with more skepticism, and it was definitely a change that was not comfortable. And I think a lot of people in law enforcement that have been there for each period of time would agree. It got tougher and tougher to do over time.
When Live PD called you and make you feature on the show, were you kind of amazed that when they called you and said, I want you to feature on the show and show you how they doing in your state?
Yeah, so the way that happened is the current sheriff, the sheriff at the time, was a big fan of the show. He liked Live PD, and he asked me if I could figure out if I could figure out how to get us on there. And I located a guy that was out in Seattle that was doing collecting video for a show called PD Cam. It was a show that Styx was doing. It was a spin-off of Live PD. And I got a hold of him and submitted some video, which ultimately got me an invite out to New York. And when I went out to New York to do the interview related to the PD Cam segment, that's when we got asked to do Live PD. And it developed over the course of weeks, but that was how it basically happened. That's how we got the invite to be on the program, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of things had to come together to make it happen, and there was a lot of skepticism in the community. Some people liked the idea, others didn't. Ultimately, what we decided to do is just to try to keep it light. The sheriff ultimately had to say about what got aired and what didn't get aired. And because we are still a fairly small community, just wanted to keep it light, keep it about the wildlife and some of the funnier things that happen or the lighter things. He didn't want to air people going through domestic situations, and
right.
He didn't want to do anything that would humiliate anybody in the community.
How many times have you been featured on the show when on Friday nights when they call you and say, did they give you a time slot? I mean, a statement up on the show where you're gonna be, what they the action is, or did they like?
I would
Did
know. In the vehicle with me during filming, there was the cameraman who sat to my right, and a
mm,
producer who sat behind him, and then an audio video guy who sat behind me.
mm.
And so I would know. There's the delay is probably 3 to 5 minutes, and I would know ahead of time whether I would know when something that I was involved with was getting aired, and I would know within 3 to 5 minutes of it happening.
So when you making that okay, I was watching the show. I love the show. I miss being on the show on Friday nights. But when people do the arrest on LAPD or anything, do you tell the producer to tell tell Dan Abrams what what's going what's going to happen on the show, and then like what?
No, in fact, it was kind of interesting because the advice from the producer was always to just do what I would normally do if the camera crew wasn't there, and that pretty much held true, with the exception of narrating some of it. They would like to know on the way to a call what we were going to, what could be expected. For example, if it was a car crash, and providing them updates, or if it was a burglary in progress, or if we were going to back up somebody else that was in the middle of a pursuit. They would like a little narration and explanation of what we were going to. And that, just from that narration, again, it's the studio, Dan Abrams and Sticks and whoever was back in the studio, they were getting it live. They were getting real time. They were getting it real time, but then there was a delay at the studio from 3 to 5 minutes about what was going to be aired. I never knew it was going to be aired until after it was already being shot.
Oh, okay, so they would know what's going down before they show the actual action of the accident, or buckery what happened.
Yeah, so I think at the time we were on, I think there were 10 or 12 agencies
Mm-hmm.
and different departments that the camera crews were out with. And so whoever had the most interesting thing happen at a particular time, that's who they would go to. And if there were really interesting things going on at the same time, they could air both of them, go back and forth from department to department, whatever one was the most entertaining at that moment.
Wow. I mean, I know that the show was up from 9 to 12. I know it's a long time for 3 hours, and from Friday night and Saturday night. Do you like being on between those two weekends? Do you like being on Friday night or Saturday night when they offer you on the show? Do you like being on Friday nights or Saturday nights?
I did. Typically, in most departments and most agencies, you don't see your captains aren't in uniform, and they're certainly not out on patrol.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just do it for the program. That was real me. I used to get into a uniform and go out on the weekends or holidays, and to try to give guys and gals times with their family. And so I would go and take calls, and I think it's a great way for administrators to stay connected with what's going on in the streets, is to go out and take calls, because it's an ever-changing job. There's nothing about this job that's stagnant, or it's different from year to year. It's always evolving.
So if you retire right now and they get a call from from your department, did they call you like, hey, I need you to come and do that investigation or something? We have to stop what you're doing and find out what's going on in the department? Or you good?
Yeah, and I was always, I always had stuff going on at the office and administrative things to do. But if there were things that out on the street that I could help with, I was always ready to go. I would take off and go to a call at a moment's notice, just and to try to make myself available, not to get in the way of the what the patrol teams were doing, but
Mm-hmm.
I was always there to help if they needed it.
So you've been there. So you have being an officer for 17 years. there's no other job you plan on me doing. Uh, what's the best thing? What's the pros and cons being a officer in Missoula, Montana? What's the pros and cons, and what kind of advice do you want? And another question to that, I'm gonna add to that one. What kind of advice do you want to get to the younger people that want to get into the law enforcement in Montana or any state for that matter? What kind of advice do you want to get to the what kind of advice do you want to get to them?
Well, first of all, I did 17 years with Missoula County, but my career spans 30 years. I started
Wow,
when I was 21, and I retired when I was 51,
wow.
and worked for several different agencies. Just happened to retire with Missoula.
Okay.
Most of that 30 years was done with smaller agencies. We don't have really big law enforcement agencies in Montana. The sheriff's office was one of the larger ones. That we had 60 sworn when I left, and I think the advantages of that, or the pros to it, are that you do know everybody and you know their families, and you're well connected with everyone. And that's also the cons, is that if somebody gets hurt, or it can become emotional when somebody you're close to gets hurt, or bad
Mhm,
things are happening to them.
mhm,
We we were busy. It's busy enough, and it's anything that can happen. Um, Anything can happen at any time, and I think that's just one of those things that can be a little bit scary. It would be easy to become complacent in smaller agencies because you don't have that constant, uh, for lack of a better word, it's not constant. You don't have the constant bad things going on. They're more occasional, and you just have to
mhm.
be on your toes and be aware of the potential for complacency.
What kind of advice you want to get to the young generation?
Um, I don't know. So much has changed in the job in the years that I did it. I think just an important piece of advice to anybody that's getting into the field is this is some of the same advice that was given to me. Take care of your family first. Um, it's too easy to let the job take over who you are, and it's not really. Um, Make sure to take care of your family and your family first, because at the end of it, that's who's going to be there. The job's never going to love you, even as much as you might love it. Take care of
Right.
your family first.
What I asked one of my former, well, he actually a member, he has a police officer, sergeant. But I asked him, what the when you were at the doing work in that Missoula, what kind of calls you ever gotten that that scared? I mean, what's the scariest call, or what the most call you ever received and you had to go to, and what made you to think like,
You
yeah, I
don't
really
think
love
at the time. It's any calls that we're going through. You're reactionary. You're responding to what is what the environment is around you is presenting, and
it. Hmm.
if it some of the things in hindsight that were scary were some things involving guns, or started off as domestics, and a handgun was introduced into it. But it's not scary at the time, because you're responding to what the call is presenting to you, and it usually isn't until hours or even days afterward that the scariness of whatever took place kind of sets in. uh, and I can think of one particular call over in Butte where um, a gal had called saying that her husband was going to kill her. He was going to kill her, and then he was going to kill himself. And she escaped and got into a closet. And this was back at the time where just cordless phones were just becoming popular, and we were trying to convince her to crawl out of the bedroom window to get out to safety, and she was just too scared to do it. And I was in the alley with another officer, uh, trying to keep containment, and had somebody walk up behind me. Well, it turned out to be the suspect. He had gotten out of the house before we arrived, and so he was outside of that containment zone and walked up behind me with the gun in his hand. We were able to get him disarmed and arrested without incident, but it was after the fact, thinking about what could have happened. He could have walked right up behind me and shot me in the back of the head, and I wouldn't even known what was going on. But it's just an example of it's not scary at the time. It's always scary afterward.
And after all that, and did the suspect ever, whoever it is, if it's a man or woman, did the suspect ever put a gun on you and like?
Oh yeah. In that particular case, I was doing in a standoff with him for a while before he finally relinquished the firearm. And I've been hit by cars twice out on the highway. Cars going by that mirrors smacked me in the back or on the shoulder. Some foot pursuits that involved getting hurt, falling down, getting twisted up in a fence, stuff like that.
So the job. Let's put it this way: is it a hard job to do to become an officer, or is it just hard to just trying to? Do you ever think about what when you go to work? I mean, when you go to work, do you ever think about before you get in the car and like, hey, all this shift goes well and smooth and nothing happens? Do you ever think about it before you go to work?
It is, in a lot of ways, it is a hard job because you're so many emotions. You just especially when it comes to accidents or fatalities or involving death. There's always somebody left behind in those, and it's hard to deal with the aftermath of a incident that involved a death because that is somebody's brother or sister or son or mom or dad or something. And so dealing with it and dealing with the survivors is always difficult. And it's also true in just everyday arrests. It's hardships on people when they're getting a DUI or they're being taken to jail for domestic or it's not you want to be there to help, but sometimes it just feels like you're being not like you're not being very helpful, that you're actually contributing to tearing up and breaking up a family. But it's in a lot of cases you just don't have the choice. It's what the law requires and what you have to do to keep people safe. And so in a lot of ways it is a very difficult job. It's hard to know what to do most of the time.
You ever had second thoughts about like taking another route before you like when you ever before you became a YouTube officer? You ever had second thoughts about having a backup plan?
Yeah, there's always alternatives. And you look for that. The only reason I would want to take somebody to jail is if there was no other choice. If you had to, what two things that determined that for me was whether or not was the crime going to continue. If take the person to jail, would the crime continue, and can I be ensured that they're going to show up to court? The only other exception to that is for the safety of a person, like in a domestic. I'm going to have to remove this person and put him into custody so that this person's going to be safe. It's if I could come up with an alternative to an arrest, I'm going to find somebody to come and get a person and just keep them away from the situation where the crime was happening. Those alternatives were always considered, and we would do that in situations where we could.
Wow. So when you ever like when you come home from a hard day at work, do you ever think about, wow, you ever think about what um how you did on this on the ship, and you ever like feel like that you did a good job or not so good or anything? Do you ever like sit down like after a long day working and taking the people when you come home, and you're like, I just want to sit there and think about, I think I did a good job, or that kind of stuff. Do you ever think about
Yeah,
that?
there were situations where you just felt really good about what you did. I had a lady one time named Pat whose horse was shot, and they ended up having to put the horse down because it was so sick. But she had the horse for almost 30 years,
Mm.
and it was like a family. Uh, it was like one of their children. They really cared a lot about the horse, and I did a lot of work, a lot of legwork to track down the people who did this. And even though we couldn't save the horse, I felt really good about being able to give her some closure about what happened to the horse, and ultimately got somebody arrested, and the guy went to prison for it. And then there's those days that even though you do a good job, the tragedy of what happened is so terrible that you just can't feel good about it. And those are some of these fatal car crashes. Even though I know that I did a good job in the delivery, my investigation, and delivering the bad news and caring for the survivors, it's still hard to go down and sit down and kick up your feet at the end of the day and feel good about what happened because of the sadness of it. It's a job that has it plays on your emotions, and a full array of them.
So that when I know the is it hard for you to like what can I do you ever think about what could done better when officers go to work? Do you ever think about what could have done better after something happens and to make it the street better?
Yeah, and I think that's probably naturally true in almost any type of work. But uh, at the end of the day, after any type of call, I always think that it's good to do a little self critique, and no call is perfect. There's always things we could do better. Um, but as long as the officers are taking the time to consider the people's feelings and what their delivery and things, it's you're never going to get it perfect, but generally speaking, I think that our folks did a pretty good job at that.
What I'm asked? I just asked another officer this question. When people come and join the law enforcement, do they ever go through a exercise or a program to become an officer or a sergeant? And do you ever give and do you ever come to you? Do you ever g- go to the person who getting hired, and what kind like what I'm saying? I'm trying to see what I'm trying to say. Do you ever you ever talk to the new hires and say, hey, thank you for coming to the law enforcement? Do you ever give me what kind of what kind of good thing you tell to the new officers when they join the church, when they join the law enforcement?
Well, it varies. It varies, and it depends on what everybody's different, and different people have different needs. Different people have different knowledge bases. It kind of depends on where they're at and where they've come from. Um, in recent years, most of the new hires have had other careers. They came from other places like California or even Washington or Texas,
Mm.
and so they have a base of knowledge. Sometimes it's just a matter of introducing them to Montana law as opposed to whatever jurisdiction they came from. Even if they were from Montana, our courts are going to be a little bit different. So it just depends on their level of knowledge coming in. And I want to say that for new hires with no prior experience, the success rate in the field training program is a little more than I want to say about two out of three people make it. 1 out of 3 doesn't. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just because not everybody is built for this type of work.
Right. Yeah. What kind? Do they go through a program? I was going to ask that question, but Do they ever go through a exercise program like pulling ropes and stuff, and go to obstacle? Do they ever do an obstacle course to go like from level from the bottom up?
Yeah, so it's part of the hiring process, and everybody has to. It's called MPAT, and I forget what the acronym is for. It's Montana Physical Abilities Test, I think, is what it is.
Okay.
And it involves an obstacle course, and then at the end doing some up downs, they call it, and then there's a push pull machine, and it's pretty physically demanding. And the bigger you are, the easier it is. For a little light 100-pound, 90-pound female, it's a more difficult challenge, but it is a standard, and it's a standard that everybody has to meet. And that's one of the very beginning phases in getting hired. And once you pass that, then you get to go on to a written test. The physical fitness test and the written test are two things that are required by Montana statute to be able to get a job in law enforcement. There are 3 requirements: physical test, written test, and then a verbal assessment, which would be an interview. So once you get past those 3 phases and are ranked, that's how you're ranked according to how you did in those 3 phases and be put on a list to be hired.
What kind? I know that. What is the What does I've seen this a lot. Well, I've seen on cops and everything. But what does a FTO field training officer actually do when they on the street? What does actually the field training officer do?
The field training officer, it depends on what phase they're in. And in most training programs, there's 4 phases to a field training program. And usually 3 different training officers. So, for example, when I got hired, I had 3 different training officers through 4 phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 1, the training officer is going to do most of the work. Phase 2, the officer will start doing more of the work based off of what they learned in phase 1. By phase 3, the officer should be doing most of the work. And phase 4, you're back with your original training officer, and that training officer is usually in plain clothes, and the officer is doing all of the work by then. The field training officer, or the FTO, in phase 4 is just virtually observing. They're not being involved. They're letting the new officer do all of the work.
What does the corporal officer do? What does the corporal officer do?
The corporal?
Yes, sir.
The corporal is usually the person in charge in the absence of the sergeant. They're an assistant shift supervisor. So they will, if the shift sergeant is there and is present, then that corporal is expected to be the lead worker. Supposed to set the example, set the tone. And then if the sergeant's off or otherwise occupied, that corporal should take over as the shift supervisor and the team leader.
Give me the rank of the officer? From the bottom up? What give me the rank where like from the
Every
if
department's different.
yes, yes, sir.
Some have different ranks that others don't, but in the sheriff's office where I retired, you have your probationary deputy,
Okay.
then a regular deputy, and then a senior deputy. That means a deputy who's been there for more than 5 years.
Okay.
From there, you have your corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, and they have sergeants both in detectives and in patrol. And the same with lieutenants. There's a detective lieutenant and a patrol lieutenant, and only one in the whole department. And then there are 4 captains. We got a captain at the jail, patrol captain, detective captain, and an admin captain. And the 2 positions above captain are undersheriff, which is appointed by the sheriff, and then the sheriff who's elected.
Got it. Cause I was like, I thought the sheriff was not. I thought the sheriff. You have to be a. Oh wow, I didn't know about the sheriff because I thought the sheriff actually be at the office, but I didn't know they actually get voted in. I thought it was like actually they get in the office, but I didn't know they actually. I don't know. I didn't know that people have to vote for people for the sheriff thing. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, in Idaho, I think they have term limits now for sheriff. That's not true yet in Montana, but your term is for 4 years. The sheriff that's currently there, this election cycle would have started his 3rd year. So he's not up for election again until 2026.
So as you the what rank are you before you retired? What rank were you part of the captain part? What
I
rank
was
were
the
you?
administrative captain, and so I was in charge of our hiring, recruiting. I was in charge of our search and rescue team and canines.
Who has the canine now? Do you
I
know
don't
who?
know. I don't know, but so much has changed there. There's been so much turnover. I probably don't know half the people that work there anymore.
Do you ever keep up? Do you ever keep up with the new people? I mean, do you ever talk to the people that you know, or do you ever?
I've had to lately because one of my retirement jobs is I have some cars that I rent through a platform called Turo. It's kind of like VRBO for cars, and I have 8 cars on the platform, and one of them was recently stolen. And so that's what I've been doing most of the morning is dealing with that stolen car. Supposedly it's in Spokane, but I had to report that through the sheriff's office recently, and that was to one of the new deputies that I got to know through making the report.
So what about the car? What the police vehicle? Do they give you the cars, or do you have to earn to get the vehicle to take home?
So that's a definite advantage to working for a sheriff's office is typically the cars are assigned. We don't have to share them like the police department does. And that's because we live far away, usually not right in the town of Missoula. So a person can theoretically respond from their home to an emergency without having to come and pick up a marked car. They can respond directly from their houses. One of the advantages to that is I believe the cars are better taken care of. Maintenance wise, they're not beat up as bad. They're kept cleaner in most cases. It is a little more expensive on the front end to buy that many cars, but I think in the long run it's an advantage to any department or agency to have assigned vehicles because they last longer and they're better taken care of.
You ever had a car? Do you ever had a car that lasted that long when you at the time you were working?
Yeah, all my cars went well over 100,000, even up to 150,000. And they were still running good when they got traded in or swapped out for a new vehicle. They were still in good shape. So Um, Started off back in the day with driving Ford Crown Victorias, and eventually I had a Chevy Caprice,
Mhm.
Dodge Charger, and then a Chevy Tahoe. And I think probably my favorite car that throughout all those years was the Dodge Charger.
I was going to ask that question. I, the span of the evolution of the cars, you said that the Dodge Charger is the best uh,
It was my
vehicle you
favorite.
love to drive.
It was my favorite just because they were all wheel drive. They were fairly powerful. They were quick. Um, those cars will go 150 miles an hour. They're
Ooh.
fast. Missoula is a big county. It's 2,600 square miles. Missoula is bigger than the state of Rhode Island.
Oh, what you like being? What's the best thing being in Montana? What you love the what you
Give me
love
just
the
a second
most
to
of being
tell
in
you about my
Montana?
stolen car. Hold on. This is Bill. Hey, how are you? That's okay. I got my dad and a friend over there looking. They've been all over the place and they're not finding it. Okay. They're still there. They're out. They're driving around looking for it right now. Okay.
I'll be in touch in a minute, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Because I've been in touch with someone over there, and they're trying to get his specific address. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'll be in touch with you, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
That was about my stolen. Thank you. I just need to
No
step away
problem.
for a second.
No problem. No problem. But one more question before I let you go. I'm trying to get you to get your call away. I was going to ask you what's the best thing? What's the best thing of being in Montana and that that you love to do?
It's changed over the years. I really love the backcountry snowmobiling. Montana is the fourth largest state in the union. It's the fourth largest state in the nation, but it's got one of the smallest populations. There's hold on a second, Brenna. Give me just a second, Brenna. It's got just barely over 1 million people, so there's only like 6 people per square mile, and so there's a lot of wide open spaces. And for backcountry snowmobiling and stuff like that, it's a real treat to be able to live here.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming on my channel, Captain Burt. I really thank you for take the time off my channel of your busy schedule to come on my channel, and thank you for
Thank
being
you
my
for being back.
one of my good friends on Facebook and showing me all the good stuff on your page and everything. I would love to have you back very soon if you're
You
free.
just let me know in.
But I would love to have you back. So you got any more? You have final remarks or comments you want to get to my lovely audience?
Do I have any what?
Final remarks or
No, I
comments
just
you want to
appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this, Jarrett. I really thank you, and I'll get back to seeing if I can find my stolen car.
get? Oh, you will. I'm guarantee you'll try to get that car back. But if your department want to know about my channel, please show my YouTube channel, and they can come and hang out with me on my channel,
All right, I'll
and
pass
that
it
kind
on.
of stuff. So I'll drop you down, and I'll go ahead and finish up the live. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all, that was Captain Burt, y'all. That was Captain Burt from Missoula, Montana. It was amazing to have him on my channel. First time ever having him on my channel from Live PD, all that good stuff. He was telling me all the good stuff about it, and it was amazing to have him, and I enjoyed. The next interview I will have on my channel will be Pastor Latanya Lee Liver. I'm gonna talk to her and see if it's still It was still down. It was still doing it for the 25th. The first of the first. No, I'm sorry. Wrong day. I would have my teacher on the 23rd. I will have my teacher on the 23rd, 6 p.m. on this channel. He actually does my he is my teacher. He's my barber, and I would love to have him. They're gonna have him on my channel on the 23rd for his birthday. So I'm gonna have him. I will have him on my birthday, and that'll be a great birthday gift for him. So I'm gonna have him on my channel, and then the 25th I'm gonna have one of my pastors come on my channel, and then after I get done with the 31st, I will have a DJ on my channel on the 31st to finish up the January interviews. So once I get done if I get the 25th done and the 31st done, then I'm gonna be I'm working on the February interviews, which I got February all lined up all the way to the 22nd. So let's get this to 200, and I will be back on my main channel the 27th of January. So you check out you tune in January 27th on the Bit channel. I'll be back full force and all that good stuff. And remember, God got you. Never give up. Never give up on your dreams. And remember, if you got someone you want to do an interview with, let me Serious or Nate, let me know. If y'all follow me on the ground, just let me know who it is, and I'll do some research about it and that kind of stuff. And I would definitely have them. I would definitely have them. So again, the 23rd, the 25th, and the 31st will be the last 3 interviews left in January, and I'll be back on the Bit channel on the 27th, 10:15 and 6 p.m. So I see y'all on the 23rd of January when I bring up my teacher and my second teacher from my high school. Okay, so he actually my coach and a teacher and all that good stuff. So tune in on the 23rd. It's gonna be a great birthday gift for him, all the good stuff. So all right, I see y'all on the 23rd. All right, yeah, talk out. Peace.